actually getting off the bed. I wanted you to see that these are navy blue before I put on my. I was gonna put on. Okay, these are pretty, but I'll put on these. Do I want to put on these boots? Do I even have the other one? Go back on your bed. You're bothering me. Right here, I have it. Good girl. We just have this much left in the epilogue. Then we start this one. So, if you saw what I posted on the other site, you would see I went to the bank today because I had to get cash to pay the people that are coming tomorrow to work on the tree, to help work on the pool. And that was very stressful for me. So I'm very happy that we made it back here. And oh, I'm alive. I think. Am I? Hey, everybody. I don't know how many more days until Halloween. I'm sure someone will do the count for me. But until then, we have our spooky theme book. What do we think's gonna happen in this one? Do you think Drake's still gonna be in it? Do you think Jim's still gonna be in it? I hope Purdue's not in it. Maybe we'll have new villains. Let's find out. I think Jim's in the epilogue at least. I think I saw his name like right at the top. Just pulling you guys up. I had to take a shower when I came home, but my hair's mostly dry now. It did blow my bangs. Do you want me to castrate you? The places you right here and now. And no, I'm not talking to you guys. I am on the epilogue. Okay. Sheesh. Jim flared its doggy nostrils at me and lowered its front from the unstuffed armchair. I had an itch, that's all. I just wanted to scratch. In the last 2 days, you pumped 2 pillows, the corner of my bed, and the vacuum cleaner. The maid left while she was cleaning the bathroom. Drake's furniture is nice. I'm sure he'd appreciate it if it remained that way. Jim threw itself to the floor. My heart is breaking, and you won't even let me get a few jollies with a stupid chair? Fine, be that way. You can tear me away from my beloved Cecile, but I won't forget her. Our love will last through all the long ages of mortals. I patted Jim on its head. I never said we weren't coming back. I just said I had to go home and explain to my uncle what all the fuss has been about. And whither I go, you go. So stop pouting. When I die, I'm coming back to haunt you. You can't die, silly. I strolled across the thick carpeting of Drake's private study. and examined the painting hanging behind a monstrous mahogany desk. It was a simple pencil sketch of a seated woman holding an urn, but the casual line of it was pleasing to the eye, perfect in execution, as if each stroke was set down by a master. Do you like my Da Vinci? Drake's voice wrapped me in a warm cocoon of tangled emotions that I did not want to examine. I smiled at the woman. A Da Vinci, I should have known. I turned to watch him, my heart beating faster at the sight of his body, moving with masculine grace, his power evident in every sleek movement. You may have it in exchange for the eye of Lucifer, which his head lifted as he sniffed, his eyes burning into mine with a familiar heat. You have tucked between your lovely breasts. I raised my eyebrows. You'd give me a Da Vinci for the lodestone, a real Da Vinci, as in Leonardo. Yes, it is real. It is also uncatalogued. It is what they call a cartoon, a sketch for painting. I found it in Germany after World War II. I let my smile go just the tiniest bit naughty. You would exchange something that valuable for a simple stone bound in a bit of inferior gold? Yes. His eyes were darkening even as I watched. He stood close to me, close enough I could smell his spicy dragon scent, the scent that had haunted my dreams for the last 2 nights. But he made no move to touch me. I sighed, even though my body might dispute the idea. Keeping my distance from him was the best for both of us. We had no future together, despite his belief otherwise. I made my decision. I plucked the lodestone out from my bra, weighing its warmth for a moment before taking Drake's hand and pressing the stone into it. He stared down at it in surprise, as if he never expected me to give it to him. Silly man, didn't he realize there was no one else to whom I could entrust it? You will trade. No, I will give. His hand closed over the lodestone, a little sensual shiver running down his body before he got control of himself. His head tipped to the side as I knew it would. Why? You're the only one who will keep it safe. I have all three tools of Baal now. I've already told you that I will not give back the Aquamanil. What is to stop me from using them? Nothing, but you won't. I might not be your mate, but I know enough about you to realize you have all the power you need. It's treasure you seek, the treasure you guard. So I'm giving you the Eye of Lucifer, no strings attached. I figure with the three tools hidden safely away in your lair downstairs, no one will ever be able to use them. You're right, Drake said, moving closer. His fingertips skimmed along my jaw, his thumb brushing over my lower lip. I ground my teeth together to keep from sucking his finger into my mouth, but only about one thing. I have no desire for more power. The tools will be safe in my keeping. About the other things, you are less prescient. Really, I stepped back. Feeling distance was a good thing. You're not still thinking I'm your mate. You are my mate. Nothing you can do will change that, but that is not what I was referring to. I raised my eyebrow in silent question. He smiled. My lair is not the room you saw downstairs. That was merely a safe. In truth, I have no lair in Paris. Someday, if you ask nicely, I will show you what a true dragon's lair looks like. I'm going home this afternoon, I said, backing up even more. My uncle is still a bit pissed at me, but whatever you said to Inspector Proust when you handed over Perdita did the trick. He called Uncle Damien and explained that they had made a mistake about me. He also told him that the Aquamanil was gone for good. Uncle Damien was less happy about that, but as I told him, that's what insurance is for. That's not all she said, Jim piped up. She also told him that she would do anything he wanted, take any job he had, just so long as he kept her on the payroll. It was pathetic, really, the way she groveled. You'd think a guardian would have a little more dignity. One more word and you're a eunuch. Jim shut up. I tried to walk out of there, but my feet took me over to Drake. So I figured, what the heck, a girl is entitled to a goodbye kiss. Goodbye, I breathed, allowing my lips to play over his. This is no way over, Drake breathed back. You are my mate, you are a guardian, you cannot deny fate. I make my own fate, thank you, I said, slipping out his arms. I was calm, I was confident, I was a professional. See you around. He just stood and watched as I walked out of his study, out of his house, and out of his life. Fires of Abaddon, that was the best you could do? I make my own fate? Man, when I left Cecile, she was crying in her kibble, and all you do is say, I make my own fate. I rolled my eyes and kept walking toward Renee's taxi. You didn't even kiss him properly. I didn't see one little bit of tongue action going on there. And I was watching. Renee, get this girl. She just gave Drake the eye and walked out with the lamest line in the history of women walking out on men. She didn't even give him a goodbye grope. She just said, I make my own fate and left. Just what is that supposed to mean anyway? I make my own fate. Is that like making yourself an ice cream sundae? Hey, I'm hungry. Can we stop somewhere and get something to eat before we hit the airport? I keep telling you, you have to feed this form or else my coat gets all ugly. Sheesh, I hope my next guardian at least has her training wheels, because this business with having to tell you everything, that's getting a bit old. And that is the end of that one. I have a excerpt from this book, but we have this book, so why don't we just start this book? Chapter 1. You'd think that Hungary would see the light as far as secondhand smoke is concerned, wouldn't you? I probably lost at least 30% of my lung capacity on the trip from the airport. I didn't even glance at the massive hairy black form at my side as we disembarked from the train on a cloud of cigarette smoke. Instead, I said through my teeth, language. Two big brown eyes opened wide with surprise. Stop it, I hissed, glancing quickly around us to see if anyone had overheard. We were elbow to elbow with what appeared to be half the population of Hungary, all intent on going to the same place at the same time as us. Luckily, no one seemed to be paying attention to a huge black dog and its unexceptional owner. I took a firm grip on Jim's leather leash, wrapping it around the wrist on my left hand as I used my right to tug on the big suitcase on wheels that kept clipping painfully into my heels. Oh, right, I forgot. Ixnay on the walking tay. Bow wow, arf, bark bark, humana humana humana. I glared at the demon in Newfoundland dog form that stood beside me as we struggled through the huge crowds at Budapest's main train station. We moved slowly forward with the rest of the lemmings, part of the shuffle, stop pattern of movement that characterized a large number of people trying to pass through a narrow opening. Jim's eyebrows rose at my look. What? You are talking. I answered more or less grinding the words. Dogs don't talk, so just shut up. Well, Jim sniffed in an injured manner as we stopped our way forward a few more feet. I knew from the experience of having lived with Jim for the past month that my furry little demon would have an expression of profound martyrdom on its face. Live with Jim for the past month. Okay, so this isn't that long later. It's giving me anxiety just thinking about like having to be close with all these people and like touching me or something. I had a full blown panic attack today. And it took me so long to calm down. And but like it just was horrible. But anyone that gets panic attacks, like you know exactly. Okay, so we're like a month thereabouts from the last book. Mm. That was a direct order. Wasn't a direct order, was it? Because you didn't say, damn it, Jim. I said, shut the barking H up, which of course is what you normally say. when you want me to shut up. And I know that's a command because you only say barking H when you're really PO'd. So I thought I'd better check whether or not that last shut up was a direct order or just a hopeful desire on your part. I stood in the center of the Calais train station, surrounded by hundreds of people, nice, normal people, people who never once thought about things like demons and demon lords and guardians and all the strange beings that populated the Lyrdella, the other world. And I wondered for the hundredth time whether, if I tried really hard, I could send Jim back to the fiery depths of hell. No, it answered my unasked question before I could so much as level another squinty eyed glare at it. You tried 3 times to send me back. The last time cost me a toe. My favorite one, too. How can you make a toe disappear right off my foot is beyond me. But the point is that I'm not going to risk another unbalanced paw just so you can play junior guardian. I'm staying put until you get yourself a mentor and figure out the whole sending me back thing. Will you stop answering questions before I ask them? Stop telling me what to do. And above all, stop talking. As crowded as the platforms were, the air filled with fumes from the fast food restaurants that lined the main section of the station, not to mention the ripe odor of a couple of hundred people who'd been crushed into a busy train on a hot August day, as well as the noise those very same hot, sweaty people made as they tried to escape the station. Despite all that, my words managed to penetrate the miasma of sound and echo with a strange piercing quality of the tiled walls. Several heads swiveled to look back at us. I smiled somewhat grimly at all of them. It hurt. A hurt look filled Jim's brown eyes as it sniffed, with studied indifference, the butts of the man and woman in front of us. We shuffled forward another few feet. So, that was an order? I sighed, my shoulders slumping into defeat. I was hot, tired, jet lagged from the flight from Portland to Amsterdam to Budapest, and to be honest, Jim's presence, although annoying in many ways, was more than a little reassuring, considering just who else was occupying the same continent on which I now found myself. The memory of glittering green eyes filled with smoky desire rose with no difficulty to dance before me, but was squelched with a much greater effort. No, it's not in order, I said softly, at least not until we're through this crowd. I doubt if anyone can even see you, let alone notice that your mouth is moving. I told you to get me that ventriloquist tape I saw on TV. The mass of humanity rippled forward, then halted again. I stood on my tiptoes and peered around the big sun hat of the woman in front of me and caught sight of what was holding us up. At the far end of the platform, where the passage narrowed to one open exit to the taxi ranks and passenger pickup areas, several men in security uniforms had stopped the crowd as a couple of VIPs were escorted off the train. What is it? Jim asked. Dead body? Someone throw himself in front of the train. Are there splattered body parts? Everywhere? Did you remember to bring your digital camera? You are a sick, sick demon. There are no body parts splattered or otherwise. It's just, I craned my neck, just a woman and a couple of guys in really expensive looking designer clothes. They're probably movie stars or politicians or something. The crowd shimmered. A second exit was opened up. The mass of travelers undergoing mitosis as one part of the crowd headed for the new exit. Sweat trickled down my back, dampening the tendrils of hair that had escaped my ponytail until they clung to my neck. I was starting to get lightheaded from the heat, the pressure of so many bodies. and the lack of sleep during the 12 hours it had taken to get from Portland to Budapest. I had to get out of there. Come on, I think I see a break. I pushed Jim toward the slight opening next to a couple of kids decked out in goth gear who were sucking the tongues out of each other's heads, jerking the suitcase behind me, apologizing under my breath as I jostled elbows, backs, and sides and swished forward. Why I thought coming here was such a good idea is beyond me. When she said it was like decked in like goth gear, I first imagined, like, I'm like, "What does that mean?" And so I imagined, like, a ton of facial piercings, like the eyebrows and the nose and the cheeks, but I imagined, like, the lips, and then when they said, like, kissing, like, I'm thinking, "Ow," when that's how you get, like, infection or something, I don't know. Like, my ears are pierced. I'm not gonna, like, rub my ear into something. "Makes sense to me," Jim answered a bit distractedly, as it smelled people, luggage, and the litter on the ground with the same unbiased interest. The crowd thinned dramatically as people scattered once they made it past the bottleneck of the exit. You need training. Budapest is where it's happening. Hey, when are we going to eat? I could have had a nice vacation in the Bahamas, but oh no, I had to come. My feet stopped moving. They simply stopped moving as my eyes bugged out of my head. My heart ceased beating, and my brain, usually a reliable and trustworthy organ, came to an abrupt and grinding halt. With no obstructing crowd remaining, the group of people standing just outside the floor to ceiling glass windows on the west side of the train station was perfectly visible to me. Jim stopped and looked back at me, one furry black eyebrow cocked in question at my abbreviated statement. You aren't using cruel sexual slang, are you? No, you can't be, because I know for a fact you haven't been getting any since we left Paris. Slowly, I blinked to make sure I wasn't seeing things, my stomach turning somersaults, my whole being riveted on the scene just outside the station. Jim turned to see what held me in such thrall. Wow, talk about speaking of the great horned one. I must be psychic or something. What's he doing in Budapest? It hurt to breathe, it hurt to think, it just hurt, period. I felt like someone had used me as a punching bag for a few hours. Every atom of my body pulled so tight, I thought I was going to explode into a million little pieces. Outside the window, a small clutch of people stood before a long, glistening black limousine, evidently there to welcome the VIPs from the train. They consisted of three men and one woman, all Asian, all dressed in red and black. The men wore black slacks with open neck shirts in different shades of red, while the woman looked as if she just stepped from the cover of the Beijing Vogue. She was tall and willowy, had long, straight, glossy black hair that reached to her waist, wore a black miniskirt and a red leather bustier, all carried off with an effortless grace that spoke of years spent in expensive Swiss finishing schools. But it was one of the men greeting the VIPs who caught and held my attention. The wind rippled the dark forest green silk of his shirt so that it outlined the lovely curves of his muscular chest and arms. That same wind was responsible for his dark hair, longer than I had remembered it, ruffling back off a brow graced by two ebony slashes that were his eyebrows. Despite the heat of the August afternoon, he wore leather pants, tight leather pants. The garment glistened and adorable derriere as he made a courtly bow to the VIPs. Drake, I said on a breath, my body suddenly tingling as if it was coming to life after a long, long sleep. Even his name left my lips sensitized. The sound of that one word strange after its banishment from my life 4 weeks ago. 4 weeks. It seemed more like a lifetime. Jim gave me a long, appraising look. You're not going to go all Buffy Angel on me, are you? Mooning around, bemoaning the forbidden love that cannot be? Because if you are, I'm finding myself a new demon, Lord. Love I can take, but mooning is not in my contract. I started toward the window, unable to help myself. My body suddenly a mass of erogenous zones that wanted more than anything on this earth to place itself in Drake's hands. His lovely, long fingered, extremely talented hands. Ashlyn Gray. The sound of my name brought me out of my trance. I swallowed hard and looked around, my mind a muddle of desire and lust and erotic memories that damn near brought me to my knees. Names, as I have had opportunity to point out, have power, and Jim's invoking my name had the ability to snap me out of something I had spent every night praying for strength against. Thanks, Jim. Slowly, I gathered my wits and determination, thankful that in the hustle and bustle of the train station, no one had noticed a deranged, lust crazed woman and her demon in talking dog form. I don't quite know what came over me. It raised an expressive eyebrow. I know. I dragged my eyes from the sight of Drake and his men waving the VIPs toward the limo. I hauled my wheeled suitcase forward and out the doors, purposely turning my back to the scene that had held such interest. Jim pacing silently beside me. I'm okay now. It was just a little aberration. I told you when we left Paris that things between Drake and me were over. It just took me by surprise seeing him here in Budapest. I had assumed he'd still be in France, safe, sound, several hundred miles away, in a completely different country, living out his life without me. Uh huh, right. Tell it to the tail, Ashling. Mm, I ignored my smart mouth demon as we joined the end of the queue for taxis. Oh, thank you, Mike. The handful of people ahead of us laughed and chatted gaily, just as if their world hadn't come to a grinding halt, whereas mine, I glanced back at the limo. Drake was overseeing Pal, one of his men, loading the matched set of luggage in the back of the glossy car. Bustier woman was speaking to one of her contingent, suddenly calling for Drake. I narrowed my eyes as he strolled toward her with the same fluid coiled power that sent shivers of delight down my back. Oh, thank you, Jerry. Had once, now of course it did nothing for me, nothing at all. I sighed. Jim stuck its snout in the bag of the elderly couple in front of us, saying softly, that was a pretty pathetic sigh. It had a lot of meat to it. I know, I answered, trying not to grind my teeth, as the woman put her hand on Drake's silk clad arm, no doubt caressing his wonderful steely bicep. It's really bad when you can't even lie convincingly to yourself. Jim pulled its head from the bag to look at me, its eyes opening wide suddenly as it made an odd combination of bark and a warning. Behind you. I dropped its leash and spun around in a crouch, half expecting an attack of some sort, but finding instead that my suitcase had attracted the attention of three street gypsies, all of whom obviously had the intention of lightening the load of my possessions. The amulet, I screeched, throwing myself on top of the half open bag. The biggest of the thieves, a young man who looked to be about 19, jerked the bag out from underneath me, his accomplices pulling on the outer flap so that it peeled back like a ripe banana. I lunged toward the small brown leather amulet bag that was stuffed into my underwear. Hey, let go, please. My fingers closed around the bag just as the youngest thief, a girl of about 15 or so, grabbed it. But I had not survived my Uncle Damien's wrath concerning the loss of a valuable antiquity for nothing. I had to save this one at all costs. It's pretty bad. Like when you're just like first entering the country and you're already getting like robbed. I feel like that's not making for a good start to anybody's trip starting off getting robbed. I jerked the amulet free just as someone behind me shouted. The street gypsies snatched up handfuls of my things, pants, shoes, and my cosmetic case, before racing off in three different directions. The wind coming off the nearby Danube flirted with the open suitcase. I decided it liked the look of my newly purchased satin undies and scooped up several pairs, sending them skittering down the sidewalk. The elderly couple who had been in front of us helped me gather the remaining clothes that had been knocked out as the gypsies made their snatch and grab, repeating soft assurances that didn't I didn't understand. So good thing you didn't have like a vibrator in there. Strap on. Thanks, Grandma. Thank you. I need one of them hard shell cases. People used to put like stickers on or something. I left Jim to guard the luggage as I ran down the sidewalk, the amulet still in my hand. I plucked my underwear from a phone booth, a magazine stand, and a newspaper box. One last pair, trembling next to a garbage bin, suddenly spun upward in a gust and flew a few feet down the sidewalk, their flight coming to a swift end as the pink satin in lace material wrapped itself in a soft caress around a man's leg. A man's leather clad leg. Oh God, I moaned, closing my eyes for a second, knowing exactly who owned that leg. Why me? Why did this sort of thing have to happen to me? Why couldn't anything in my life ever be simple? When I looked again, Drake was holding my panties in his hand, his head slowly turning as he scanned the crowd until he saw me clutching a handful of underwear. Any thoughts of escaping undetected died in that moment. The woman who had been about to get into the limo paused and raised a beautifully arched eyebrow at him, her eyes sliding over me in cool consideration. She was perfect in every way, flawless complexion, hair glossy and straight, her assets displayed with confidence I would never be able to match. Beside her, Drake stood in smoldering sensuality, his natural state, all hard lines and rugged planes, and extremely drool-worthy masculinity, the kind that stuck in your head and wouldn't let you sleep at night. I wonder if the other lady is like a dragon too, part of that scepter, whatever. And then there was me, the third person in the tableau. I knew exactly what Drake and the woman were seeing, a hot, sweaty woman in her early 30s, dressed in a loose t-shirt and worn jeans, hair coming loose from the scrunchie used in an attempt to tame wild curls, without so much as a single eyelash having seen the benefit of cosmetics. It was no good. I couldn't compete. I was outclassed and I knew it, but I still had my dignity, what was left of it, after my underwear was spread out along the front of the Coletti station 10 minutes after my arrival. Raising my chin, I marched forward to Drake, firmly squelching the cheers of delight that several unmentionable parts of my body were sending up. I believe those are mine, I told him, holding out my hand for the underwear. He flared deep in his emerald eyes, but I looked down at his hand, refusing to be drawn into that trap. I knew well the power of his desire. You have excellent taste in undergarments, he said, his voice a little rough around the edges, as he placed the item in my hand. Victoria's Secret? No, I said, allowing my eyes to meet his for a moment. I swear a tiny little wisp of smoke curled out of one of his nostrils. Naughty Nellie's House of Knickers, Portland, Oregon. Thank you, goodbye. He inclined his head as I spun around, ignoring the disdainful arched brows of the woman and marching back to where Jim sat next to my ravaged suitcase. The taxi rank was empty, the elderly couple evidently having snagged a taxi while I was retrieving my undies. Don't say it, I warned Jim, as I squatted next to the suitcase, transferring it to my collected lingerie and the amulet. A taxi pulled up beside me as I double-checked the zipper, wondering what the street gypsies had done with the evidently useless lock I used to secure the bag. Just don't say it, okay? Me? I'm not saying anything. I waited. I'd lived with Jim for a little over a month now. It was virtually impossible for the demon to let something as mortifyingly embarrassing as having my underwear scattered on my former lover go without comment. But if I was going to say something, it would be something along the lines of smooth move, XLX. The limo passed us with a gentle, expensive purr of its engine, the tinted windows thankfully keeping the sight of Drake's, no doubt politely amused face from my view. I didn't have to see him to know he was looking at me, though I could feel it. There was just something about being the object of a dragon's regard that left the hair on the back of my neck standing on end. Chapter 2. No talking in the taxi, I reminded Jim in an undertone as I pulled a Hungarian phrase book out of my bag side pocket, rifling through the book until I came to the section on transportation. I leaned down next to the open taxi window to tell the driver where I wanted to go. Let's see, where is the post office? Please, I would like to buy an airmail stamp. Where is the bus to Vienna, please? Where is an internet cafe? Oh, for heaven's sake, you'd think it would have a simple, please take me to the blah blah hotel, but no, that would be just way too convenient. I did not know of a hotel blah blah, but perhaps it is new. The taxi driver asked in accented English, French, accented English. Both my book and my jaw dropped as I peered into the recesses of the cab. The driver was a dark-haired man of middling age with a friendly smile that delighted me to my toenails. Renee, what? You were in Paris. You the man, Jim drawled, shoveling me out of the way so I could it could put its paws on the door and stick its nose into the taxi, giving Renee a couple of good swipes with its tongue. Thank God you're here. She's falling to pieces, and we've only been in this country a couple of hours. Oh, thank you, Mike. Jim, It is a pleasure to see you again. Thank you for the postcard from the California coast. I didn't know you could write. You can write, you can read. Jim shot me a nasty look. I can't, not after one of my toes went missing. I dictated and Ashling wrote for me. Oh. I shook my head in an attempt to clear it as Renee leaned out through the window to reach back and open the door of the taxi. This doesn't make sense. You're a Paris taxi driver. This is Budapest. The two aren't even remotely close. Something here does not compute. Would you like to explain why you're here and not in Paris? Jim leaped into the car. I stood on the sidewalk clutching my luggage, the phrase book fluttering at my feet. Renee grinned, got out of the taxi, and gently pried my fingers off the handle of the suitcase before taking it to the trunk. My cousin Bella, he is a taxi driver most discreet here in Budapest, but his stone of kidneys erupted, causing him much pain, so he is unable to drive for the next 2 weeks. I am here to fill in for him. Fill in? I asked, grabbing my phrase book and allowing him to shoo me into the car. Jim had its head out the fat window, great big ropes of drool, thankfully dribbling outside rather than down its chest, as they usually did. Wait a minute, didn't you say that you and your family take a vacation during the month of August? Why are you spending your vacation time working? Renee grinned at me as he slid into the driver's seat, carefully buckling the seatbelt. I hurried to buckle Jim in before I did the same. Memories of our hair-raising drives through the congested streets of Paris reminded me that Renee loved nothing so much as the interior of the car, if then as zipping about in a manner that left passengers floating around the interior of the car if they weren't strapped in. Hin, my wife, and the little ones are in Normandy. It is hot there, Ashling, very hot, and the children, they will have sand rashes and sunburns and stomachs upset from too much ice cream and candy, and my wife will be without her wits trying to control them. Me, I prefer Budapest and tourist to that horror. I slumped back against the hot full leather upholstery as Renee eased us into the busy traffic. Well, I'm profoundly grateful that you're here. I've had a hell of a day. Ahem, Jim said, pulling its head in the window to give me a glare. Sorry, heck of a day. First, there were thieves trying to steal the item I'm couriering, and then Drake's in Budapest, Jim told Renee before sticking his head back out the window. She had a meltdown seeing him with another babe. I pinched the thick fur of Jim's haunch as Renee sucked in his breath. Drake? The wyvern of the green dragons? One and the same, and I did not have a meltdown. I gnawed my lower lip for a couple seconds, absently admiring the lovely architecture in the row of historic white stone buildings that we were passing. You don't happen to know why he's here, do you, Renee? It's kind of an odd twist of fate that he, you, and Jim, and I are all here at the same time. Renee's eyes met mine for a moment in his rearview mirror. He gave one of his effortless but expressive French shrugs. You never know with fate, Hein. Perhaps it is trying to tell you something for you and your mate to be in the same city after you left him most cruelly. He's not my mate. I'm his, I said sourly, watching the city slide past us. This was only my second time abroad, and part of me was utterly thrilled at being in such a beautiful city. We passed historic buildings, small leafy green squares surrounded by the ubiquitous black wrought iron fences, streets filled with stories and shoppers, a couple of pedestrian arcades, and more churches than you could shake a stick at. It was all lovely, and I made a mental note to try and squeeze into my busy schedule a little time to see the sights. And I didn't leave Drake cruelly. I explained to him why being a wyvern's mate didn't fit in with my plans. Just for the record, he didn't even try and stop me, nor did he call me and beg me to come back to him. Not that I wanted to, but just in case you were wondering, he didn't. So fate can just go take a flying leap where the whole issue is concerned. Renee's brown eyes flashed in the mirror again. He didn't even email me, I grasped, feeling ashamed even as the words left my lips. I have had 4 long weeks to come to grips with the fact that life evidently had ideas for me that I wasn't ready to accept. One of which was that I'd been born the mate of a wyvern, the head of one of the 4 dragon septs. The other was a talent I was more willing to allow into my life, assuming I could find someone to mentor me in learning guardian skills. You want a little cheese with that wine? Jim pulled its head in long enough to ask. Renee is a friend. I'm allowed to complain a little to a friend. You are a furry demon. Put your head back out the window and don't get any bugs up your nose because I don't have the money or time to take you to the vet. See what I mean? Jim asked Renee, meltdown. What hotel am I taking you to? Renee asked quickly. He'd been around Jim too. He knew just how much the demon dog could get on my nerves. The Thermal Hotel de New. It's on Margaret Island. It's supposed to be a big conference hotel with all sorts of bennies, benefits, services, amenities, stuff like world-class masseuses, parkland surrounding the hotel with walking and jogging paths, saunas, thermal baths, and something the hotel brochure called an amusement bath. I can't wait to see what that is. I know, the Hotel de New. It is very expensive, very chic. One of Renee's eyebrows arose as his reflection looked at me. I yelped and pointed out the front window. The taxi swerved to avoid colliding with another car, throwing Jim onto my lap before the vehicle settled down. It is not like you to stay in such a place, yes? Only Renee could take a near head-on collision with such bland disregard. I twitched with the effect of the adrenaline pumping into my body at the close call, taking deep breaths to calm my pounding heart. No, it's not like me, but yes, I am staying there. I'm here for a conference that's being held at the hotel, and they had special rates. It's taken most of my savings to pay for the conference, but I figured it's worth it. When I found out the conference was going to be held in the same city where I'm supposed to deliver the amulet, I decided it was too good an opportunity to miss. You see, Renee nodded. You listened to fate. That is good. I did not realize you knew goddamn. What? I mentally shook my head. I could not possibly have heard him correctly. I beg your pardon? Goddamn, the conference. You are here for the conference of the guardians, oracles, diviners, Thurges and mages, I finished with him, wondering how he knew about the conference. Like me, Renee had been a newcomer to the other world, becoming involved with it via my attempts to extricate myself from a nasty murder rap. Yes, that's it. God damn. Gotcha. How did you hear about it? I am not so sheltered as you think, he answered with a great air of mystery. It is good that you're listening to your heart about being a guardian. It is what you are meant to be. Yes, but you mentioned an object. You are still the courier most faithful for your uncle? Yeah, something has to pay the bills. Uncle Damien is giving me another chance to prove that I can transport a priceless object without having it stolen by a certain green-eyed dragon in hunk form. He doesn't have any gold on it, so it should be safe enough from him. How familiar are you with Budapest? The guy I'm supposed to deliver the amulet to is a hermit. He doesn't have any fixed address, but supposedly he hangs around the city parks. A hermit? Renee shook his head, then leaned on the horn when a bicycle courier dashed out in front of him. I do not know about a hermit, but there are many parks in Budapest. Margaret Island is itself a park botanical. Jim will enjoy the rose garden, I think. Jim has no trouble finding enjoyment wherever it goes. I'm not worried about Jim. I'm worried about how Uncle Damien expects me to find a hermit whose whereabouts no one knows. All I have to go on is an address at which the hermit is supposed to pick up mail. But who knows if it's still valid? Don't worry, I'm here. We did most well in Paris. Yes, we will conquer this hermit too. I smiled at Renee's reflection. Yeah, we did work together well, didn't we? I'm very grateful you're here. Are you taking private passengers? I managed to talk my uncle into giving me a tiny little expense account for travel and such. I'm going to need someone to drive me around to all the parks in the area. Because walking would be like so healthy, Jim said, glancing toward me for a minute. I get enough exercise taking you out for a gazillion walkies seem to feel necessary each day. I pointed out, besides, unlike some four-legged demons I could mention, Renee is smart, insightful, and most importantly, willing to help. I'd welcome any assistance he wants to offer in finding the hermit. Thank you, Rob. That has to be a volcano, right? I think I'm right. I'm a hermit. I'm a hermit crab. I want to be in my little hermit shell and be safe. And then don't disturb. With the, but the world forces you to like come out of your hermit shell. Mm. Ah. Jim made a sour face. Look, you knew when you summoned me that I'd been kicked out of Abaddon and didn't have any powers. Don't come whining to me about how I can't tap into the dark powers to do your bidding. I opened my mouth to protest that I did not know any such thing, but bit back the words. Bickering with Jim always left me frustrated and resentful. Two things I had hoped to banish from my life when I closed the relationship door on Drake. Drake, damn it. Why did he have to reappear in my life just when I was trying to get a good solid grip on it? Here is the thermal hotel de new, Renee said, interrupting my murky thoughts. The taxi swept around a grand curved drive to pull up in front of an astonishingly modern hotel. After the drive through the historic area of town, I was surprised to find this hotel looking more like an office building in Portland. It was white stone, no surprise there. Many of the buildings in Budapest seemed to be made of white stone and glass layered into stripes that rose at least 12 stories high. But it was surrounded by the most gorgeous gardens I'd ever seen. I followed Jim as the demon leaped out of the taxi and stood looking out across a narrow parking lot to a long expanse of lush green lawn and flower beds brilliant with reds, yellows, deep blues, and at least 100 shades of green. Wow, I could get used to this. Gotta pee, Jim said, as it shambled toward a nearby shrub. Not on any flowers, I yelled after it, then turned to grab my luggage. Oh God, Renee, I am sorry about the taxi. Are there any car washes nearby? Renee came around the taxi and stared in surprise at the long ropes of partially dried Newfie drool that were plastered along the side of the car and the window. I should have realized when I didn't have to mop Jim up on the side of the ride here where all that slobber was going. How much will it cost to have that cleaned off? It is of no account. You sure? Due to the pileup of conference goers and tourists arriving before us, Renee had pulled in about 60 feet down the long reception area. We walked around the back of the taxi to the sidewalk, Renee pausing long enough to grab my suitcase from the trunk. I headed for the hotel lobby, stopping when I saw that sitting smack dab in front of the hotel was a long black limousine. Crap. Renee looked over to where Jim was circling a laurel bush. No, he's just making much pee-pee. No, not that. I pointed to the limo. It would just be my luck that Drake and his bit of hussy chose this hotel to stay at. I wonder if I can get a room anywhere else. Are you so afraid of the dragon then? Renee asked, his head tipped to the side as he considered me. I smoothed down my t-shirt with a self-conscious gesture. Afraid? No. Terrified is more like it. Terrified that he's going to seduce me again and I won't have the willpower to refuse. How much do I owe you? Dog slobber cleanup included. Oh, thank you, Thomas. 13 euros. I will help you with your luggage. Suspicious, I glanced at Renee's face, but there was nothing but polite interest displayed. You never offered to carry my bag before. You want to see if Drake's around the lobby, don't you? You want to see if I'm going to make a fool of myself over him again, don't you? It's not bad enough that my underwear attacked the man in front of half the of Budapest. Oh no, now you're secretly hoping for an encore. You ought to be ashamed of yourself, Renee. You're as bad as Jim. He grinned and took my arm, gently pushing me down the sidewalk toward the hotel's entrance. I do not understand what you say about your underwear attacking Drake, but I will admit that to me it is most curious that you and he fight your mutual attraction. Despite this, I have no wish to see you make a fool of yourself. Mollified, I allowed him to escort me to the entrance, pausing long enough for Jim to catch up to us. Behave, I warned it, grabbing its leash and giving it a look to let it know I meant business. And yes, that's an order. The demon rolled its eyes. The hotel is full of denizens of the other world, and you're worried about something as mundane as a demon? Shh, you know as well as I do that citizens of the other world do not like to stand out and be noticeable. Besides, there are other people staying here, sane ones who don't need a Demon 101 course. You will remember at all times that this is a nice, normal hotel with nice, normal. A woman with a long blonde braid wheeled a crate past us, stamped live imps, handled with caution. People, I sighed. Renee snickered. The lobby of the Thermal Hotel de New was done in shades of peach, rust, and cream, a combination that sounds ghastly, but that was pulled off here with an elegance that left me wishing I had changed into something a bit more sophisticated before we entered. Renee whistled in admiration as he followed us. I started across the huge lobby, admiring the ambiance and praying that Jim behaved itself when we were in public. We had gotten off to a bad start, but with luck, nothing else embarrassing would strike me in public. A short blond man with a fuzzy upper lip strolled by as I was passing a clutch of peach colored chairs, grouped in a conversation nook, pausing just long enough to send me a bland look before he continued past. You will trip and fall. Huh? I asked, peering backwards at the man as he headed out the front door. Renee, did you hear that man? He said I would. Jim stopped suddenly in front of me. I tripped. I fell. With a loud squawk that seemed to echo to every corner of the elegant lobby. My back, my liver, my spleen. You've killed me. Jim wailed from where it lay beneath me. You're a demon. You can't be killed. And shut up. Someone will hear you. I hissed, mortified to the tips of my toes as I tried to gather my sprawled limbs. People all over the lobby stopped chatting, mingling, sipping cold drinks, checking in, and doing all the various other things people did in fancy hotel lobbies, and turned en masse to look at where Jim and I lay in a tangled heap. A hand came into view, offering assistance. I grabbed it, allowing Renee to help me to my feet. As I stood, I realized the hand didn't belong to Renee. Jim looked up at the hand. Drake, would you tell my demon lord that while it's true I can't be killed, this extremely handsome form can be damaged and she's probably broken every rib in my body. Man, someone needs to drop a few pounds, and I can tell you one thing, it ain't me. Chapter 3. I gritted my teeth, both at the sight of Drake's amused green eyes and at Jim's demon lord reverence. I hated when it called me that. Technically, the title was true because Jim had been cast out of its previous lord's legions when I summoned it, thus binding the demon to me until I could figure out how to release it. But I resented being called a demon lord. Everyone knew demon lords were pure evil, whereas I was merely clumsy, or cursed, or probably both. Mate, your demon wishes to inform you. I raised my hand to stop Drake. Point one, I'm not your mate. Point two, there's no point two, okay? So thank you for helping me up. Oh, stranger who parades around with gorgeous women, but evidently shop at the Madonna Pointy Breast Bustier Boutique. Now you may be on your merry little way and leave us mortals to go about our lives without the addition of an annoying fire-breathing lizard in a human suit. Drake leaned forward, his eyes going dark with emotion. You have never seen me breathe fire, mate. You might enjoy it. Heat swept through me at his words, a familiar heat that flared into the inferno that was his dragon fire. I fought it for a few seconds, knowing that if I didn't accept it. Oh, thank you, Mike, again. Thank you. It would consume me where I stood, leaving nothing but a few charred ashes to mark what I had been. Smoke began to rise from my hair as Drake's fire flashed through me, setting every cell in my body alight. My mind screamed with a warning that I was seconds away from total combustion and death. Drake's glittering eyes holding mine as I fought his heat, fought the connection we had, fought the fact that despite my wishes to the contrary, I was one of the rare people who were able to withstand the test of a true wyvern's mate. With a growl of futility against the inevitable, I opened the door in my mind that allowed me to access newly discovered powers, embracing the dragon flame as it consumed and renewed me. A fiery rebirth that I reveled in for a few seconds before turning it back on Drake. I wanted to say something witty and caustic to prove to Drake that nothing he did or said mattered to me, but all I did was pant a little at the effect of channeling so much of his heat. Triumph glowed in his eyes for a moment before he banked his fire. Without another word to me, he turned and strolled back to where the VIP and her gang of three were waiting impatiently. I am so over my head with him, I moaned softly to myself, unable to keep from watching Drake's derriere as he walked away. Say what you will about dragons, and I had a number of things I wanted to say. They really knew how to move when they chose to appear in human form. Yes, yes, you are. Don't you think she is, Renee? Very much, yes. He looks at her, she looks at him, and poof, sparks, they fly. Look, her hair is still on fire. I stopped oogling Drake and slapped a few errant curls that were smoldering with the after effects of my run in with Dragon Boy. All right, enough of the wise ass comments. The show's over. It was just a little fire exchange, nothing more. Nothing to get excited over. Now perhaps I can get on with things, important things like life without you know who. Hal and Istvan, two red-headed men who were part of Drake's sept and served as his bodyguards, stood watching impassively as Drake returned to the Asian woman's side. Hal lifted his hand toward me in friendly greeting. Istvan glowered first at me, then at Jim. Looks like Istvan hadn't forgiven you for almost neutering him, Jim commented. That was an accident, and you know it. Besides, I've sworn never to play darts again, so he has nothing to be surly about. I gritted out a smile at both men, gave Pal a little wave in return, and ignoring the stares and whispered comments from everyone in the lobby, made my way to the front desk. I hope not Ashley, Emily is here from the last book. And she didn't try to be a bad guy. And she was like her number two in that challenge or whatever. Mm. I feel like that's one of the only people we're missing in this exposition. Stood watching impassively as Drake returned to the Asian woman's side. Pal lifted his hand toward me in friendly greeting. Isfan glowered first at me, then at Jim. Looks like Isfan hasn't forgiven you for almost neutering him, Jim commented. That was an accident, and you know it. Besides, I've sworn to never play darts again, so he has nothing to be surly about. I gritted out a smile at both men, gave Pal a little wave in return, and, ignoring the stares and whispered comments from everyone in the lobby, made my way to the front desk. Here, I will give you the mobile number of my cousin Bella. When I was finished checking in, Renee pressed into my hand a postcard with a phone number scrawled across the back. You will call me when you are ready to find the hermit. Yes? I do not like to think of what trouble you will find you if you were to go off on your own. Did you learn any language for this trip? Language? Oh, Hungarian? Yeah, there was this guy I ran into in the chat room when I was online looking up information on the hotel, and he gave me a couple phrases to say. Let's see. Sir Seretnilek Latni Ruhu Nelkol. Renee's eyes widened as he choked. What? What is it you think you just said? I frowned. What do you mean? What do I think I said? I said, it's a lovely day out. He shook his head. Jim snickered. I thinned my lips at them both. Well, I'm sorry. My pronunciation is probably a little off. I'm new to this learning foreign languages thing, as you both very well know. What did I say wrong? Jim licked its leg with a strange absorption. A faint smile tugged at the corner of Renee's lips. This once your pronunciation was good. Not excellent, as is mine, but good enough to be understood. Oh, I said, pleased by his praise. Renee had tried to teach me mm, some useful French a month ago. Useful if you want to say things like, I have frogs in my bidet, and previously had only scathing things to say about my pronunciation. Clearly, French is not going to be my forte, but Hungarian was obviously another thing altogether. Maybe I'd turn out to be a linguist after all. So, what was wrong with what I said? He stopped biting the smile as Jim put a paw over its eyes and groaned. To me, you say, I would like to see you naked. No, I guess, mentally damning the man in the chat room. That poop. And I went into the trouble of learning all the stuff he gave me. Damn it. Renee shook his head as he laughed, giving my hand a sympathetic squeeze. Oh, well, thank you, Jerry. Drake's other woman has more power than anything else to pull her back. You know what, though? I feel like Drake likes to watch the women fight. So, yeah, I don't think he'd mind that their power squaring off. Thank you. You are wonderful at watching my back, and I very much appreciate all your help. It's getting too late today to find the hermit, but what say we make an appointment for tomorrow? We agreed upon a time, and with a final grin, Renee toddled off, his hands in his pockets, as he whistled a jaunty tune, looking utterly normal in a world that was fast realizing was anything but. Come on, you hairy hound from Jim raised an eyebrow at me. Abaddon. Let's go get ourselves spiffed up and we'll see what's going on with all the diviners and theurgists and guardians. You do that really well, Jim said as I dragged the suitcase over to an elevator, checking the plastic key card for the room number. Do what? 1215. Drag. I hate rooms above the third floor. Ignore the fact that the second you saw Drake, you stood on point faster than an Irish setter spotting a pheasant. I glared at it. I'm not a dog, and I resent you comparing me to one. You're the one with the dog fetish, not me. And I'll thank you to remember that I'm perfectly happy being a human. No, you're not a dog, but you are changing the subject. So observant, my little demon. I patted Jim on the head. So, as the elevator doors closed, do you really think you can just ignore him? It didn't work when you were on the other side of the world, Ashling. Now you two are in the same city, the same hotel, and the second you see him, you're all but drooling on the man. Demon, I order thee to keep thy trap zipped until I tell thee otherwise. Jim glared at me, unable to violate a direct order. I hated having to resort to such harsh measures, but I was having a hard enough time getting my brain to stop running around like a deranged chihuahua to tolerate Jim poking at something I just couldn't deal with at the moment. I am a professional, I told the empty hallway as I dragged my suitcase down the long, opulent passage, Jim walking silently behind me. I have seen the worst and triumphed over it. I can do this. I didn't realize Jim from its bondage of silence, or release Jim from its bondage of silence until I had taken a fast shower, changed into a gauze peasant skirt and matching blouse that I thought looked exotically pretty, wrapped a colorful scarf around my hair in an attempt to look totally and completely different from the crazed woman who had fallen in the lobby. I gathered my new organizer. You're to be on your best behavior, I warned Jim on the ride down to the conference level of the hotel. No peeing on anything unless I say you can. No gender checks by sniffing anyone's pertinent body parts. No wisecracks about me in relation to men named Drake. You got all that? Jim's lips curled, but its great black furry head gave a curt nod of agreement. Good, you may speak now. I hate it when you do that. It burst out, eyes bulging a little with the strain of having kept its comments to itself. Not even a Mayon used to be make us be silent. Don't tell tales about your former demon master. I think this is where we're supposed to be. We exited the elevator to walk through a busy reception area. Over a wall of doors, a huge banner hung, reading in French, English, and what I assumed was Hungarian. 238th International Conference of Gotham, as a Godtam. Although the conference wasn't due to start for another hour with the official kickoff banquet, there were a number of people in business attire milling around, some sitting on the scattered benches and chairs, others in small clutches, talking quietly with one another. A latte stand in the corner of the room did brisk business. Wow, our first conference. Maybe I should have worn my brown suit. Do I look dressy enough to you? This is kind of exciting, huh? Yes, no, yes. It would be downright thrilling if you were to feed me, Jim answered, watching an attractive couple wander past bearing paper latte cups and elaborate pastries bristling with almonds. The dinner will start in an hour or so. You will kindly remember that I had to pay for you to attend the meal and not embarrass me by demanding horse meat or something ghastly like that. You sure know how to take the fun out of life, Jim snorted as we joined a short line before a skirted table manned by several individuals, all wearing badges with the nine-pointed symbol. Although I knew from experience that most of the citizens of the other world looked perfectly normal, the dragon's slightly elongated pupils being the only physical sign that they weren't human, I still half expected to see something out of the ordinary, some indication that we had stepped out of the real world and into something cloaked in real mystery and magic. Name? I pulled my mind from its wanderings to attend to the registration woman, Ashling Gray. Ashling? That's right. I spelled my name for her. It's Irish. Denomination? Huh. Well, my mother is Catholic, but my father was a Presbyterian. I'm kind of neither. The woman gave me an annoyed look. Are you a diviner, theurgist, guardian, oracle, or mage? Oh, that sort of denomination. Guardian, kind of. Really more like Guardian Light. Less filling, half the fat, Jim quipped. The woman ignored both of us as she pulled a box of envelopes toward her. And there should also be a registration for my demon. Its name is Ephraim. Jim knows the box. I hope it just says Jim on the name tag. I don't want anyone to think I'm a sissy. A demon? Is it here as a member of the conference? She gave Jim a cold look before flicking through the thick envelopes, finally extracting two. She handed me clip-on name badges for both of us, as well as a thick packet of material. I clipped my badge to a ruffle on my peasant blouse, then attached Jim's to its collar. Demons are expected to be kept under control at all times and are not to be left unattended. If you do leave your demon without supervision, it will be trapped in limbo and returned to its demon lord at your expense. The main convention hall and ballroom have been warded and spelled so that you cannot conduct dark magic within their confines. The meeting rooms are unprotected. However, do you understand and accept these terms? Jim started to tell the woman that I was its demon lord, but I interrupted it before I could blather that news to everyone. Sure, no problem. I'm not really hip with dark magic. I'm just here to find a guardian mentor. The woman tapped a few keys on the laptop computer sitting next to her at the to the registration materials and a printer at the end of the table hemmed to life. She pulled a piece of what looked like parchment from it, sliding it toward me along with an old-fashioned nib pen. Kind of an odd mixture of high-tech and quasi-medieval, huh? I commented, weaving at the printed parchment with the pen. She just looked pointedly at the paper. In the upper corner, if the sheet was my name, written in a beautiful, ornate calligraphic font. In the center was drawn the same elaborate nine-pointed star that the conference workers wore. I looked closer at the pen and realized that it wasn't a pen at all. It was a lance. The sort diabetics use to get a drop of blood for testing. You must seal the agreement in blood, the woman said in an annoyed, put upon voice. Failure to do so will result in ejection from the conference. Heaven forbid, I murmured as I jabbed my thumb with the lance. Where do you want it? In the nanogram, I blinked. She sighed. A nanogram is a nine-pointed star. It is the symbol of studied achievement, which is part of the motto of Gotham. Without further ado, I pressed the bead of blood into the center of the star. The parchment must have had some magic worked on it, because the second my blood touched it, I was overtaken by the sensation of silken cords wrapping around and around me. What was that? I rubbed my arms. Despite the fact that I could see there was nothing on me other than my clothing, the feeling of the bonds remained. You are now bound by the covenant of the Godtam, the registration woman intoned in a bored voice. Welcome to the conference and blessed be. Next. Oh, does my demon need to be bound as well? Demons cannot be bound in such a manner. You are responsible for its behavior. Next. Jim and I passed through at the doors into the main conference area, following a group of men in expensive, well-tailored suits. Mages, Jim said in an undertone, its eyes on the men. Really? How can you tell? Their shoes. Mages go in for Italian footwear. So do dragons, but those guys don't smell like dragons. I slid a curious glance down to Jim, walking at my side. Just what exactly do dragons smell like? He lifted a furry black lip in a sneer. You ought to know. You spent enough time with your nose buried in drakes. Jim, I shrieked. Neck? I pinched the thick skin on its back. Just forget I asked, okay? Shall we mingle? Oh, yeah. Are those hors d'oeuvres for everyone? I'm going to get me some before I starve to death. Jim shimmied toward a waiter, wandering through the gathering crowd of offering a tray of tall champagne flutes and another with tiny canapes. Save room for dinner, I called after the demon, then stood looking around at everyone in their suits and chic outfits, feeling very out of place, very bumpkin visiting Polish town cousins. Hello, you're a guardian too. Is this your first time? I turned at the friendly sing-song voice. A tall blonde woman wearing a slinky black dress smiled at me. She looked like a Barbie doll come to life, a Scandinavian Barbie doll, if her accent was anything to go by. Yes, to both questions, although the first one is kind of iffy. I'm Ashley. I'm actually here looking for a mentor. Really? She eyed me from crown to toes, walking a circle around me to get a better look, and with that, I wished I had put on my brown power suit. It might not be a sexy little black dress, but at least I look professional in it. I have been thinking it time to take on an apprentice. We might. So, I am Moa. I am from Burge, Sweden. You have completed the ritual? Ritual? I bit my lip. I've done a couple of rituals. I summoned a demon, and later I almost summoned a demon lord. No, she waved away my paranormal resume with an elegant scarlet tipped hand. The ritual, the test that all apprentices must pass in order to begin formal training. You have not passed it? Oh, great. There was a test I had to pass just to sign up to be an apprentice. Why did no one ever tell me these things? No, I haven't passed it. I didn't know anything about it until you mentioned it. Is it difficult? How long will it take? I don't have a lot of time to spend studying. Is there a cheat sheet I can buy somewhere? Her lips pursed as she pulled out a thin gold notebook, flipping through the pages until she came to one she liked. I have time tomorrow after the panel on troll rehabilitation, but before the demon tormenting workshop. Shall we make an appointment to meet then? I will discuss with you the ritual and my requirements in an apprentice. Great, I said, watching as she extracted a gold pen from the notebook and made a note. Maybe we can sit together at the demon tormenting thing. She gave me a blinding smile. Yes, it is always nice to have an acquaintance at torture workshops. Be sure to bring a plastic raincoat until tomorrow, Ashling. Thanks, I look forward to it. She headed off toward the mages in expensive suits, leaving me standing by myself, feeling even more at sea than I had in the last month. But at least I had an appointment with a potential mentor. At last, things were looking up. All right, that's the end of chapter 3. I guess I'll stop there for the night because it's almost 8. Pick it up on chapter 4 tomorrow. Maybe at some point, um, Emily will come back in town. That would be nice. Um, so we made it to Budapest. We're now we're hungry. Drake's there. We're gonna find out why, who those people are. But this one's fun. We're taking place in a conference. So it's like instead of a club, maybe it expands more on, and also you can learn more of what a guardian is and meet other guardians because up until now she's just been the only one. Um, I tried that Rula link for, like, a therapist. I was like, "Okay, I'll just try one," because my link was supposed to, like, expire soon. And, I had to go get my card. You had to type in your code for, like, your insurance, and I'm sure my insurance covers therapists, but didn't cover that site that my doctor had given me or whatever. So I went through all that for it to tell me, and I was like, "You know what? I'll take this as a sign that this wouldn't help me anyway with my grief, my depression." But I tried, so some credit for that. See, I need one of you to, like, take this on the boot and pull. I could do it, but I don't think I'll look very cute. Not that I look cute doing anything, but I can do it this way. When I don't have the pantyhose on, um, your legs get, like, sweatier in the, boots, and then it could be, like, stuck. Well, not this one, but I've had them get stuck. Um, so yeah, that's the update for now. Couldn't get a therapist with a site, but tried. Got to the bank, but I did have a panic attack. And then tomorrow is supposed to be tomorrow morning, by the way, like 10 a.m. So they're gonna text me first so that make sure she's in. And they're wanting to be paid, so I'll have to be up early for that. So I'll probably be wanting a nap or something, be tired. But anyway, when I see you tomorrow, that should have happened. That excitement there. So sleep well. I love you.